Okay, completing the square. Number 3. Step number 1 says move C to the other side. So I'm going to take this positive 4 over. It becomes negative 4. So we have x squared minus 4x, scoot down, skip a space, equals 16 minus 4, which is 12. Always add half of b squared. So I'm going to add plus half of negative 4, I have to be careful, is negative 2 squared. What you do to one side, you're going to do to the other. Always add half of b squared. I have to be really careful here because I have that negative 4. This creates the binomial square, x, and then this is negative 2. Or I can look at this first sign and it's going to run the gamut right there. It's going to make a little trail of negatives. Equals. If you put this in the calculator, this is going to turn out to be a positive 4. And 12 plus 4 is 16. Don't forget to put your negative in parentheses if you're using a calculator. Okay, now we're going to take the square root of both sides. The square root and the squared undo each other, and that just leaves x minus 2. Don't forget that plus or minus, and the square root of 16 is 4. The 2 comes over, negative 2 becomes positive 2. You're going to have to be very careful about your signs. So x is equal to positive 2 plus or minus 4. And then I'll just finish that. 2 plus 4 is 6, and 2 minus 4 is negative 2. So writing our answer from least to greatest is negative 2, positive 6. Number 3. Again, we're going to move our c to the other side, and it becomes negative 26. Positive on the left means negative on the right. So we have x squared plus 2x, scoot down, skip a space, is equal to negative 26. Be very, very careful with your signs. You just can't say that enough. So this next step is always add half of b squared. Always add half, in this case, half of 2 is 1 squared. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. Don't forget. This creates a binomial square. First term x, positive 1 right here, or it's this sign here, plus, plus, plus. And then when I add this up, I get negative 25, because 1 squared is just going to be that 1. Undo the squared, you're going to take the square root. When you take the square root, the squared and the square root will cancel each other, and that's just going to leave x plus 1 equals. Plus or minus. Don't forget plus or minus. Then we have the square root of negative 25. Hopefully you've gone back and remembered that we can't take the square root of a negative number. It's going to be imaginary. So therefore this answer is going to be 5i. When you take the positive 1 over, it becomes negative 1. So I have x is equal to negative 1 plus or minus 5i. I'm good with this answer. You can write it like that and I'm okay. Or you can write it as two different answers. In other words, negative 1 minus 5i and negative 1 plus 5i. Either way you write it is fine with me. Number 5. In number 5, we add a little step here. We notice right here that it has a coefficient of 3. In completing the square, your a must be 1. Ax squared, a must be 1. So this coefficient must be 1. To take care of that, to make that 1, we divide everything by whatever that coefficient is. And in this case, it's 3. So we have x squared minus 4x, and I'm going to go ahead and take this c over to the other side, scoot down, skip a space, is going to be equal to a positive 5/3. So now I want to go through it and do my add half of b squared. Always add half of negative 4, which is negative 2 squared. Always add half of b squared. Then that creates the binomial square of x, and then this is negative 2 minus 2 quantity squared. Or if I look right here, it's minus, minus, minus. It's going to follow that sign. Then I'm going to type this in, or you can get a common denominator. And you're going to write it in fractional form, and this is going to be, I'm getting 17/3. So here when I come out with 17/3, it's not going to be pretty, but it's going to be doable. So I have the positive 5/3 plus, and if you want to go ahead and state, this is going to be a positive 4 because that's going to be added, multiplied to give me a positive when you square it. And now I'm going to take care of the squared. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And this is going to be x minus 2 because the square root and the squared are going to cancel. Plus or minus, and then I have the square root of 17/3. We could write that as the square root of 17 over the square root of 3. Either way you write this and you're more comfortable with, write it however you want to. And I'll try to kind of alternate back and forth. So we have a couple of situations here. When I look at this, I always take the root if I can. And for neither one of these can I take the root. However, I cannot have a negative in the denominator. So therefore, I must rationalize with the square root of 3 over the square root of 3. That big R word again. So what I have here, and I'm going to do several steps because I'm running out of room. I'm going to take the negative 2 to the other side, and it's going to become positive 2, plus or minus, and then we're going to multiply 17 times 3 because they're both underneath the radical, and you get the square root of 51. This is, the 3 comes out, or the square root of 9, which just makes it 3. Now this isn't like the quadratic formula where it's 2 over. This 2 is really big. It does not have a common denominator of 3. It's just 2 on its own. So this is number 5, and it's got a little more detail in it whenever you have to rationalize. You may want to try and start over and work this one by yourself.